Welcome back to section 2A. We're going to talk about units. You can't add apples and oranges. A unit is describing what's being measured or counted. In reading units, we have several operations. It's kind of like um, translating from math to English or symbols. When we read in English the word per, this means divide. And the operation can use a division sign like this or a fraction bar. For example, miles per hour means m over h, or miles per hour. Square or squared is when I raise something to a 2 power, or I can do a superscript of 2. That's also square or squaring. This is when I have feet times feet, or I can rewrite it square feet, and it's written feet raised to the second power. Cube or cubic is being raised to the third power, and I can show this also by superscript to the third. This is when I have feet times feet times feet, or feet cubed, and can be written cubic feet or feet cubed. A hyphen means that I'm multiplying things. Multiplying, you can use an X or a dot, that's a really big dot, or you can use the little star function you can find on your number pad. If I have something like kilowatt hours, kilowatt hyphen hours, that's the same as kilowatts times hours. Let's identify a couple of units in our first examples. Price of gas. This is cost divided by gallons. So I have dollars per gallon, or dollars over a gallon. The area of a circle is 2 times pi times r squared, or 2 pi r squared. R is measured in centimeters. And note, pi is unitless. It's just a number, 3.14159. So I have r times r, that's a centimeter times a centimeter, or centimeters squared, or centimeters raised to the 2. Volume is found by multiplying, in this case, acres by a depth of feet. So I would have an acre foot. If I were doing this in just feet, I would have feet times feet for the acre times feet, and I would have it cubed. In this case, a foot acre or an acre foot would be, I have acres times feet. Unit conversions, some of you are familiar with this and it might be a review, but I am going to assume that most of you are just having an introduction to this, and I'm going to go rather slow so that I don't lose anyone. This is when I change units to another unit, such as changing feet to inches. Now remember, we even went over this in the last section, that you can't add something to the top and bottom of a fraction and keep it equivalent. I can multiply something, and multiplying by 1 always keeps its value. Anything times 1 keeps its value. And there's different ways of writing 1. For example, if I have 5 over 5, 5 divided by 5 is still 1. It's just rewritten. And so I'm going to rewrite 1 and multiplying it. So here's our first example of 1. I can have C over C, 1/2 over 1/2, minutes over minutes, or miles over miles, 1 week over 7 days. So now it's a little different, but that still reduces down to 1. 1 foot over 12 inches, that still reduces down to 1. So we can disguise it and keep everything in its value. Okay, conversion factors. We're going to convert 7 feet into inches. So I take 7 feet and I need to multiply it, and my multiplication button you can find is the little star, either Shift 8, or if you have a number pad it's up above the 9. I need to multiply that to get rid of the feet if I want to convert it to inches. And when I multiply fractions, if something's on the top and something's on the bottom that's the same, they can cancel each other out. Now you're thinking, wait a minute, 7 feet isn't on the top. But you can rewrite any whole number over a 1 and it becomes a fraction. So in this case, feet cancels out with feet on the bottom. So I want to put it on the bottom to cancel it out. And I'm going to go ahead and use my strikeout over here to say that those are canceled because I have one on top and one on bottom. And the conversion, 1 foot is equal to 12 inches. So here's my disguised 1. Now because this is gone, I have 7 times 12. The only unit left is inches because the feet cancel, and I'm left with 84 inches. Let's go ahead and convert 91 days into weeks. I know the answer's there, but I'm going to go ahead and show you how I do it. Insert, over here is equation, and I want 91 days converted into weeks. So I'm going to multiply it to a fraction, and I like this kind of fraction when I'm doing my conversions. Now, I want to get rid of days, so I'm going to put days down here because days will cancel top and bottom. And I need to replace it with, I want to move towards bigger, so the next thing after day is week. So now let's fill in, what do I need? Well, 1 week is equal to 7 days. Oops, 7 days. There we go. So now I have one on top and one on bottom. I can cancel out days, the unit, and I'm left with week. So I have 91 days, or 91 because the days are canceled out, times I have week, that's the only unit. 91 times 1 is still 91. So I have, oops, go back in here. Equals, oh, it's still not in there. Oh, equals 91. When you multiply fractions, you do top times top and bottom times bottom. So I get 91 times 1 is 91. The only unit left I have is week or weeks. On the bottom, remember I can make this a fraction by putting it over a 1 or leaving it. 1 times 7 is just 7. So 91 divided by 7 gives me 13, and the only unit left is weeks. Okay, and now I would like to highlight that this is my answer. And I can use a highlighter button, or I can come in here and change the color, increase it. I could do both. Just some way that I know where your answer is to be found when you submit these in your homework supplements and anything that you submit to me. Okay, the next one, converting more than one. So I have a day and I want to see how many seconds. I know the answer is below, but I'd like to go through it one by one by inserting an equation, and I have 1 day, multiplying it by my unit conversion, a fraction. Now I want to get rid of days, so I want day to be on the bottom so I can get rid of it. Now what's the next smaller unit from day? Hour. So I'm going to come down here and I put 1 day is the same as 24 hours. Good. Now my days are canceled out. Strike through. They are gone. Cancel. Cancel. But I haven't made it all the way to seconds. So I need another unit conversion times the next fraction. Now this time I want to get rid of hours. So I'm going to put hour on the bottom. Now what's the next smaller unit from hour? Minutes. And I figure out how these relate to each other. 1 hour is the same as 60 minutes. And now I have an hour on the top and on the bottom. Take the hour, cancel it out with the hour on the bottom. Good! Now my units went from days down to minutes. But I'm still not there because I wanted to convert it to seconds. So I need to multiply it by yet another unit conversion. Here's my next fraction. I want to get rid of minutes, so I have 1 on top, and putting 1 on the bottom will cancel it out. Now the next unit, smaller than minutes, will be seconds, which is what we wanted. And now I have a minute on the top, so I can cross out my unit here with the unit on the bottom. Oops, I forgot to put in my seconds and minutes. I have 60 seconds in 1 minute. So now the only unit left is seconds, and I have now converted days down to seconds, and now I just need to worry about multiplying all of my numbers. On the bottom, again, I can put this over a 1. 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is just 1. So dividing by 1 is just 1. So I'm not even going to put anything on the bottom. So now on the top I have 1, and I don't have days anymore because it's crossed out. 1 times 24 times 60 times 60. You can do this in your calculator, or you can use Microsoft Excel. A lot of you may not be familiar. Some of you are going to be just fine on this. To make Microsoft Excel work like a calculator, inside one of the little cells, I press equals. Now I had 1 times 24 hours times I had 60 minutes in that section and 60 seconds will give me 86,400. And I can copy and paste or just type it in, 86,400. There we go. Now this is seconds. And highlight your answer in some way so I can find it easily when I'm grading your homework. Okay, let's go to the next one. Next example, D. You want to carpet a room that is 10 feet by 10 feet, but the carpet you're looking at is only sold by square yards. So let's talk about area. Area is length times width. So I'll have 10 feet times 10 feet. And make sure you put those units on there, because when I multiply, it's not just 120 feet, it's 120 feet squared. So now I need to convert 120 feet squared into square yards. So I know the answer's there, but I'm going to walk you through it so that you're okay with that. Here's my equation editor. I need 120 feet squared, so I'm going to do a superscript in here. Come over to feet, and up here I'm going to make it squared. Now I need to multiply it to a conversion. Now I want to get rid of feet squared, so I'm going to put feet on the bottom, and I want to replace that with yards. Now I need to figure out how yards and feet relate to each other. I know 1 yard has 3 feet, but that only gets rid of 1 foot. And in that case, I'm going to show that by canceling out the squared, because I've only canceled out 1 of the feet. Strike through. And so I need to get rid of the other one, because feet squared is feet times feet. So I need another unit conversion, another fraction, and again I want to replace it with yards, and 1 yard is the same as 3 feet. There we go. Now my second foot can be crossed out with this second foot being crossed out, and I'm only left with yards. So now that I can multiply, remember fractions, you multiply straight across. The top I have 120 times 1 yard times 1 yard, so I'm left with 120 yards. Come up here to make a script. Yards squared. And on the bottom, I have 1 underneath the feet squared if you want to think of it as being a fraction, or just 3 times 3, which is 9. Then I need to simplify by dividing 120 by 9, which gives me a fraction. Now again, you can use your calculator, or you can come into Microsoft Excel, make it work like a calculator, and I have 120 divided by 9. And to make it work like a calculator, remember you have to put an equal sign. and it'll calculate it for you. 13.3 repeating, and put in my units of yards or yard. You can put an S on there, doesn't matter. Squared. There we go. And highlight my answer in some way so that I know that's the answer. Let's move on to the next one. This example of the cement stairs. Cement is sold in cubic yards. And I have all of the dimensions for my cement stairs in feet. So let's go ahead and figure out the volume for my stairs in feet, and then go ahead and do the conversion from feet to yards. So I would like to break this up into 3 different sections and treat them all like a column. So here, the first step, I have half a foot here, or 6 inches, by 2 feet here, by right here. If this whole length is 1 foot, then this is also half a foot. The next one, I have half a foot here, which means the whole length from here to the bottom is 1 foot, and the depth of this one is half a foot, and the length of it is the same as the one previous. The length of the stair is 2. Now the larger column in the back, I have a 4 foot, I know this is not drawn to scale, so I have 4 feet here. The length of this one is 8 feet, and the height is 1 foot. And that also matches up with the height over here. If my stair is only half a foot, then this is 1 foot, which matches the 1 foot here. So my large block is 8 feet length times width times height. 8 feet times 4 feet times 1 feet, or 1 foot, gives me 8 times 4 times 1, 32 feet cubed. The larger stair is 2 feet across, 1 foot high, and half a foot in depth. So I have 2 times 1 times 1/2, which gives me 1 cubic foot. Alright, now we're left with the smaller stair. The smaller stair is 2 feet wide with a height of half a foot and the depth of half a foot. So I have 2 feet times 1/2 times 1/2, which gives me 1/2. And don't forget, feet times feet times feet is cubic feet. Now I need to add all of my cement together that I'll need for my 3 different blocks. So I have 32 plus 1/2 plus 1. 32, 1/2 gives me 33.5 feet cubed. But remember, cement is sold in cubic yards. So now I need to convert this to cubic yards. I know the answer is below us, but let's go ahead and work through it one by one. I have 33.5 feet cubed. That means feet times feet times feet. That means I need to multiply it 3 different conversions to get rid of the 3 feet on the top for the 3 feet on the bottom. I also know that 1 yard is 3 feet, so I'm going to go ahead and cancel out or strike through using my strike through tool to cancel out each of the feet on the bottom with the 3 feet on the top, my feet cubed. There we go. Now the only units I have are yards, which is good because that cement is only sold in cubic yards. So multiplying all of the top together, 33.5 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 33.5 yards cubed. Yard times yard times yard is yard cubed. Then on the bottom, 3 times 3 times 3 gives me 27. 33.5 divided by 27, you can use your calculator or you can use Microsoft Excel again. Make sure if you want it to calculate, you put equals 33.5 divided by 27 gives me 1.24. Now you'll notice I have 1.3 yards cubed. That's because I can't go underneath what I need. I need to round up to the nearest tenth and do 1.3. Now, even though rounding 1.24 really becomes 1.2 because I'm working with a material like cement, I don't want to go too far under, so I'd rather round up to 1.3. And there's my answer, 1.3 cubic yards, and highlight it in some fashion so that I know that's your answer. Okay, the next is currency conversion. So here's the different currencies that we'll be talking about. The British pound, and these are the different symbols for each of the monetary values. The Canadian dollar is with a dollar sign, the European euro, the Japanese yen, and the Mexican peso. This first part is dollar per foreign, and it gives us the conversion factor, 1.49, 0.94, and these change on a constant basis. And then the next one is the foreign per dollar. So I have 0.67 and so forth. In a department store or pastry shop in France, you want to buy something that is 30 euros. So let's make the conversion of how many US dollars is that. So I have my 30 euros, and I go up and I find the conversion factor for dollars per foreign. So I come up here to the European euro. Remember, per means divide. So I have this many US dollars per one foreign. And if you want to put that in there, one foreign, that's fine. And this one, it's the reverse. Foreign per $1. I'm going to take that out, but you can make that in your own notes. So I have 1.286 as of the year 2013 over 1 euro. And now I have a euro on the top and 1 euro on the bottom, and the euros will cancel, and I'm left with dollars. Multiplying straight across, 30 times $1.286 gives me 38.58 with a dollar sign. You can use your calculator or Microsoft Excel. And again, highlight in some fashion. I'm getting kind of done with yellow, so we'll use something different. Now, B. You're going to Japan and you want to get yen from the bank. If you take in 100 US dollars, how many yen will you receive in return? So here's my $100 and I times it by, I'm going to show just one more time because I think it'll be nice to see another equation. So I bring it up and I have $100 times, you can either do Shift 8 or the time sign on your number pad, and come up here, make a fraction for your conversion, and then I find, or actually let's talk about, I want to get rid of the dollar and move to the yen. So up here is going to be yen, and if I have dollar on the bottom, then I know that the dollar will cancel top and bottom. Now I need to know which conversion factor. So I need to figure out how many foreign per $1. So up here to yen, here we go, foreign per dollar. So I'm going to put in my 101.216 yen per $1. Multiplying straight across, and I'll get, move the decimal over 2 spots because 100 has 2 zeros, and I'm left with 101, move the decimal over, 21, decimal, 60 yen. Now remember, I get that because my dollar canceled out with my dollar, and I'm left with 10,000 yen. And highlight the answer in some way. It's a good thing I already did that because it seems that I forgot to cancel out the dollars on that one. There we go. So let's move on to the next one. Problem solving with units. A car is traveling 25 miles every half hour. What is its speed? Speed is done as miles per hour. So I'm going to take my miles divided by hours, miles per hour, 25 miles divided by half an hour, times, or when I divide fractions, I flip and multiply. So I'm going to multiply this by 2 over 1 hour, and I'm left with 50 miles per hour. Now some of you are thinking I can do that in my head, and that's fine. Go ahead and do those easy ones in your head. But the other ones, they might not be so easy. And you'll want to use the conversion factors. All right, let's move to the next one. Buy a farm. So you decide to buy a farm of 30 acres at $12,000 per acre. What's the total? Now some of you say, I know how to do this without units. That's fine, you can go ahead, but we're going to use units because it verifies that my answer really is true. So I have 30 acres, and here's my conversion, 12,000 per acre. Remember, per is divide, so I'm going to create a fraction of 12,000 over 1 acre. The acres will cancel because I have one on top, one on the bottom. 30, top times top, 30 times 12,000 gives me 36,000, or 360,000, and nothing's left on the bottom but a 1. Anything divided by a 1 is the value, and highlight my answer. There we go. So that right there, we're going to kind of go back. I was buying a farm of 30 acres. The acres canceled, and I'm left with dollars. Did that indeed answer the question? What is my total? Yeah, and using the unit conversions helps to verify that I did it correctly. Let's move on to C. What went wrong? I do this a lot when I'm grading. I have to look through and see. And so it's good for you to look through and see what might have gone wrong here so that when you correct your own before you turn it in, it'll be easier to see. Eli bought 15 pounds of potatoes at 90 cents per pound. He decides to calculate 60 cents per pound divided by 15 pounds. He did get 90 cents per pound correct because per means divide and 90 cents per pound. Divided by 15 pounds. When I divide fractions, I flip and multiply, so I need to flip this one and multiply by 1 over 15 pounds. So now nothing cancels here. On the top I have 90 cents, and on the bottom I have 2 pounds. Pounds and pounds give me pounds squared. Is it 6 cents per pound squared? That doesn't make sense. So let's go through and find the correction. Instead of divide, we should multiply. And here's the shortcut for pounds. That will cancel out now that I'm multiplying because one's on top and one's on bottom, and I'm only left with the unit of cents, which I'm looking for is how much. So 15 times 90 gives me 1,350 cents, or you can change it to a dollar sign, which is $13.50. You can divide $1 or multiply $1 over 100 cents by using the unit conversion, which gives you your 13.50. Okay, let's move on to gas mileage. You're driving on a road trip with 90 miles to go. Your car gets 25 miles to a gallon. How much gas do you need to finish the last 90 miles? If you have a 12-gallon tank, typo, if you have a 12-gallon tank and the gauge shows that it is a quarter full, will you make it the last 90 miles without getting gas? So let's use our unit conversions to help us work this out. If I have 90 miles a gallon, or 90 miles to go, and my car gets 20 miles a gallon. Now, if I have 90 miles and I want to cancel out miles because I'm looking at gallons, I need to put my 25 miles on the bottom. And in doing so, I have one on top and one on bottom that will cancel, and I'm replacing all of my units with gallons. So my answer will have gallons. 90 times 1 is 90 gallons. No units on the bottom, so it's just 25, and that simplifies to be 3.6 gallons. That's how many gallons are needed to finish the trip. Now we are told that you have a 12-gallon tank and the gauge shows that it's a quarter full. A quarter means a fourth of the way. A fourth of 12, or 12 times 1/4, gives you 3 gallons. But you need 3.6 gallons to finish the trip. So that means you won't make it. You'll either end up walking or hopefully find a gas station. Okay, next example, melting ice caps. If all the ice melted, the 25 million cubic kilometers of water would be added to the ocean. How much would the sea level rise? And you'll need to know the surface area of the Earth's oceans is 340 million square kilometers. I know it's getting kind of big. So what we need to know is how many kilometers high will it raise? So I need to figure out, I have 20 million cubic kilometers, and I'm given a surface area of million square kilometers. If I take the cubics and divide it by squares, I will get kilometers to the 1, and that means it's the distance or the height of the kilometers, how far it will raise. That's how I can use my unit conversions to figure out what the process is. So I'm going to divide my cubic one by my square ones. So I have 25 million cubic kilometers. So I have my 25 million cubic kilometers on the top, divided by the 340 million square kilometers on the bottom, and 2 of these will cancel out. So I'm going to cancel or cross out the cube and 2 of these on the bottom. Now notice I didn't cross out the kilometers here because one of those is left, and I'm left with 25 million kilometers over 340 million, nothing, because it canceled out, and I'm left with, using your calculator or Excel, 0.074 kilometers, or you can change that by moving your decimal over. Kilo means 1,000, so I move it over 1, 2, 3 decimal places, and you get 74 meters. Now, of course, that's rounding, or if we didn't have beaches and mountains, and each of these will be a little different, but for our sake, it would increase 74 meters. And we highlight our answer. I hope you join me for the next section.